Resolution 367 on the floor.
Yes, Mr. President, I move the Council Resolution 19-0367 be adopted.
It has been moved and seconded. The courtesy public hearing for Council Bill 367 is open. May we have the staff report? We have Lisa Lumley in the building. Oh.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, bear with me 1 second while I pull up the presentation. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for bearing with me there. Good evening, Council President Clark and members of Denver City Council. My name is Jill Jennings-Golick, Interim Executive Director of Community Planning and Development. Here tonight to provide the staff presentation on the request for use of city-owned land addressed as 4400 North Pearl Street in the Globeville neighborhood. Let me start off by saying that this has been, really in the words of Evan Dreyer, described as an imperfect process, and that's accurate. There's nothing about this that any of us are pleased with, including that when we started at committee, we hadn't yet really had an engagement process with the community. In all fairness, this still hasn't been the kind of engagement process we'd like. That said, we've taken a lot of time over the last couple of months to engage with the neighborhood, to learn, to ask questions, to allow people to express opposition, and to share information. As a result, we've learned more about what is important to the Globeville neighbors, and we made important changes to the license agreement to accommodate that feedback and input of current residents, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But the heart of the matter right now is that the village is in danger of being forced to shut down, pushing people out of stable housing, away from a support network, and back into homelessness. We do not want to see that happen, especially when there is a viable city property available for its use. So quick history. So we're here today to lease property, as I noted, to the Colorado Village Collaborative for use of the beloved community village. Today they have 11 sleeping units with no bath kitchen facility with 12 residents, 2 porta potties, and then 1 common bathhouse with 2 showers. They have been at 2 sites, both essentially in the 38th and Blake area over the last 18 months, and have successfully provided safe, temporary housing and a unique support network for residents of the village. 5 residents to date have transitioned to permanent housing, and 11 of the 12 current residents are employed or in school, and 1 is on disability. I will note that neighbors at 38th and Blake, who were originally concerned when the village first moved in, have reported positive experiences from having the village located near them. Additionally, as part of this effort, as it was a pilot program, the city undertook a monitoring program. So that was a program by which an inspector from Zoning and Neighborhood Inspection Services, as well as the Department of Public Health and Environment, would schedule visits at least 24 hours in advance with the village, go out to the site and to determine if it was still in compliance with permits that were issued, and to make sure that there were no outstanding concerns or issues at the site. We have done that at both sites that the village has existed on today, and we will continue that here. We also used a survey at the previous site to gather feedback from the community, and we also plan to do that here to ensure that we are hearing from the community if the village does move forward on this piece of property. In terms of site selection, It's just a little bit back here. So as mentioned, the village has been on 2 sites to date, both at 38th and Blake. They had secured a 3rd site to move the village to last October, Ringsby Court site owned by Zeppelin Properties. And unfortunately, it was determined in late October by Public Works that that site was not a viable site to relocate to, due to significant concerns of a spill from the river at that location and the velocity that the water would be traveling. So we had a time crunch on our hands, and that is how we found ourselves in this situation. The village originally needed to be off their current site by mid-January. We were able to put forth a building code amendment to give an additional 60 days if they had not yet received a temporary certificate of occupancy at a new site. And that is when we, the city, stepped in to search dozens of properties and try to find a good fit. So that leads us to the site selection criteria. So in collaboration with Colorado Village Collaborative, once that original site was deemed not viable, we worked to prepare a list of criteria, which you see here, to help determine the best site. Following neighborhood feedback regarding the Pearl Street site, the City and Colorado Village Collaborative re-reviewed our original list of properties and other potential sites and reached out again to groups like Volunteers of America, Urban Land Conservancy, and other private properties in the area to see if there were any other viable locations. But unfortunately, no sites became known to the City or Colorado Village Collaborative that met this criteria, could be permitted within the time frame of being off their current site by May 15th due to the granting of a Denver Building Code Board of Appeals request for more time, and allowed appropriate time to do public outreach and could be used for more than 1 year. So a little bit about the site. Our intent is to relocate the existing tiny home village to approximately 20,000 square feet of this site. The site itself is approximately 35,000 square feet. This allows the village to expand up to 20 sleeping units and provide a community kitchen and bathroom building connected to utilities. The site is currently zoned UMX3, again located in the Globeville neighborhood in Council District 9. Excuse me. I will also note that we have encouraged Colorado Village Collaborative to work on a good neighbor agreement with the registered neighborhood organizations and communities in the area. Unfortunately, we do not yet have anyone willing to sign that. However, Colorado Village Collaborative will live by the terms of that good neighbor agreement, most of which was feedback we heard from a number of the community meetings, which I'll go into next. And I should note that, that type of agreement takes time to put together, and we'll continue to advocate if there is anyone willing to partner on that agreement. But we've also incorporated certain provisions we heard were important for the community and solutions we heard to some of those concerns into the license agreement. So in terms of community engagement, the city as well as Colorado Village Collaborative have held a number of neighborhood meetings to discuss this project and answer questions. The first community meeting was held on February 7th, and I want to note that it was hosted by Globeville Cares in partnership with the city, and I thank them for all their outreach to get people to that meeting. We've tried to incorporate feedback from the neighborhood, both in the draft Good Neighbor Agreement the Colorado Village Collaborative has been working on, as well as the license agreement itself, and we've continued to listen to concerns of the neighborhoods. So I'm not going to read through all of the meetings there, but we've had a number of meetings over the last 2 months, including a community cleanup, barbecue, and community meeting hosted on the site on April 13th. So in terms of the license agreement itself, this is for a 1-year term with the allowance of 2 one-year renewals at a cost of $10 that can be renewed administratively. The use of the property is tied specifically to the beloved community village with a maximum limit of 21 structures, so 20 sleeping units and 1 community building that can occupy the site. And renewal of the license agreement is at the city's sole discretion. And that is really because in order to stay longer than 360 days at one site, there are certain provisions they need to meet in terms of providing that community building and connecting to utilities. Otherwise, our code does not allow for more than 360 days at this time. So in terms of modifications to the license agreement, So Councilman Ortega, and thank you for this suggestion, suggested that we look at incorporating certain elements from the proposed Good Neighbor Agreement into the license agreement, and we have done so to the extent possible. We've done everything in our power to ensure that beloved Community Village will be a good neighbor in Globeville, like it has been only a half-mile away in the Rhino Arts District and Cole neighborhoods and 5 Points. These are the items we heard were important to Globeville neighbors, so again, we're including them in the license agreement. So just to quickly summarize, we reduced the term. Originally, we were looking at a total of 4 years. We've reduced it down to 3. The license agreement allows city authority to enter the property with 24 hours notice to conduct that monitoring inspection program I mentioned earlier. The license agreement also requires biannual check-ins with the city and Colorado Village Collaborative, and requires the city to attend a biannual public meeting with the Colorado Village Collaborative. We've added language to be very specific that outdoor camping is not an allowed use, and that this was quite a concern from the community, and something Colorado Village Collaborative was certainly willing to do, was that to the extent permitted by law, they will perform background checks, including criminal background checks, to screen for sex offenders or potentially dangerous individuals. So we, the city, will be ensuring that they do that. It requires Colorado Village Collaborative to install any fences, should they want to modify the fence that exists around the property today along Pearl Street. And also clarifies that the village is responsible for any snow removal and maintenance on the property. Let me go back. So again, these provisions will allow the city to hold Colorado Village Collaborative accountable to certain standards and requirements that have come up as being important to the neighborhood. If this is moved forward tonight, the village expects to begin relocation on or about May 13th. As I noted, their current property owner and lease has them allowed at the current site through May 15th. And with that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I know this is a challenging conversation, and I appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you very much.